I'm glad you brought up Sean McDermott from that press conference on Wednesday, because I'm sure a lot of people listening might not have got an opportunity to see or hear that press conference. You mentioned Dan Fates. He was asking him a question, kind of pressing him about the struggles of the offense and how they're failing to score points. I'm going to play that clip. It's about 48 seconds or so. And after it's done, I'm going to get your take on what you feel like the mood of Sean McDermott is right now, and if you can kind of see that he is getting a little bit testy with the media. First, let me play that clip for people who didn't hear it.
Are you frustrated with that success rate of your offense, or where's your level of frustration with it?
What success rate?
The success rate of your offense, or the failure of it to succeed. Are you frustrated with it?
What's the success rate? I'm not sure. Is there a number you're referencing?
Just points per game and just the quality of your offense. Are you frustrated with it?
Well, give me a more specific. I need more specific. I mean, you're throwing. Am I concerned with? Am I frustrated with the success of our offense?
Yeah. I mean, they're 25th in points per game. Is that enough? Or where is the level of frustration? I guess it's from.
Move the ball, score points. If we don't do that, I'm frustrated. Simply put. Okay, thanks.
And then at that point, he cuts out and he walks away. Does he sound to you like a coach who would be on a 2-7 team right now as opposed to a 6-3 team? You know what I mean? It's a little surprising. He definitely, you could see him. He was wearing that frustration on his sleeve on Wednesday. He wasn't really trying to hide it either.
Yeah, and I guess I don't understand the combative nature of the question. It wasn't a combative question. It was, Coach, your offense hasn't been that great. Their success rate, and listen, and I think a lot of us might say, okay, Coach has got a point. Like, what metric are you asking him to talk about? But Dan wasn't sitting there asking, hey, Coach, I need to know what you think about the 30th ranked passing DVOA. And what in that, he wasn't asking a complex question.
Right.
He was asking, the offense isn't good. What's your frustration level with it? What feedback do you have for us? What are you working on? And for the coach to get that upset or to get that frustrated over a very simple question, being a very fair question, by the way, because I want to keep going back to the point that the thing that pisses me off about this offense the most is that this is a season where so far they're 6-3, right, man? They're 6-3. And I truly believe if they have the 15th ranked passing offense in football this year, or if they're just average, they might be 9-0. They might be at the very least 8-1.
Yeah.
And to me, that has to frustrate people. That can't sit well with people. And the people that say, Nate, well, the game-winning drives and the fourth quarter comebacks, and this and that. And I say, yeah, guys, well, Tyrod never did that. And I agree. Tyrod did never come back in the fourth quarter. That was the one thing that you looked at. And yeah, Josh does that. But if Josh can play well for the first three quarters, he doesn't need 5 comebacks in a season, because that offense, the defense is doing enough against the opposing offense that all you need to do is score 21 points. And think about this. If they score 21 points against the Cleveland Browns, they win. They score 21 points against the New England Patriots, they win. Now, if they score 21 against the Eagles, obviously they lose by 10 still. But my point there is this team should be better. And that's the frustrating part for me, who isn't just a Allen or die guy. I play this very even keeled. I'm trying not to take too much from the ups and too much from the downs. But that's polarizing. It's very difficult to do. Is you either have to be, I love Allen or I hate Allen, and anyone in the middle is just kind of whatever, right? And yeah. I want to be in the middle on this. It's safe here in the middle. And, at first, I think at the beginning of the season, I really wanted to defend Allen because I thought a lot of the criticism wasn't fair. But that game last week really broke that ability for me to look at it from I'm on one side or the other. And now I'm sort of sitting in the middle until I feel comfortable that I can move one way or the other.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'm kind of the same way. I've defended Josh Allen plenty because I feel like plenty of games where I thought he kind of stunk for 3 quarters, and you talked about him, and then he would play really good in the fourth, and they'd find a way to win. That Cincy game, the Miami game, he made some plays out in the stretch for sure. It is frustrating. And one of the things about the Tyrod and Josh Allen thing that kind of got under my skin a little bit, which, to be in fairness to people who were saying that they were correct, it was Tyrod's last 20 games against Josh's first 20. That this is Tyrod's ceiling and this is Josh Allen's floor. And I definitely think that there's some context of that that's correct. Now, Joe, Buffalo Wins on Twitter, who absolutely drives me nuts, and sometimes some of his shit on Twitter gets a little out of hand. I'm going to say that, and I'm being generous with your boy right here, okay? But he put out a tweet earlier this week too. So if you want to take away, and I'm not going to read every stat because again, this isn't a stat podcast. I don't want to sit here for an hour reading off a bunch of numbers. But his point was, all right, well, let's scrap Tyrod's last 20 starts and let's say his first 20 starts. His stats are just as good and maybe a little bit better than what Josh Allen's are right now. I just, I've tried really hard to not have this conversation because I've always hated the comparison for starters. And you hit on this earlier. Tyrod came to Buffalo. He spent 4 years in Baltimore. Now, he didn't start. He was a backup, but he learned from Joe Flacco, who at the time at least was a great quarterback, or at least a very good one. He had a head coach, John Harbaugh, an amazing organization in Baltimore. Josh Allen comes to Buffalo as a rookie on what was kind of a mess of a roster, even though they were coming off a playoff spot. I mean, this is a team that makes the playoffs, and instead of acquiring talent, they're trading it away. You know what I mean? They're kind of going towards that rebuilding. So for that reason alone, this really makes it a comparison that I've always hated. But when you look at the numbers, and forget the numbers, when you look at the record of these guys as starters too, it's an inevitable comparison that needs to be made at this point anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and listen, like the comparison can easily be just thrown out the window, right? This comparison doesn't have to be a talking point. The offense just has to go out and produce and score points. And I liked the frequency in which Brian Dable began the preseason and the beginning of the year. They were coming out and throwing the football a lot and with high frequency and high success. And I think, they became a little complacent. They became a little conservative after Josh Allen was turning the ball over a whole bunch. And now the one thing that nobody wants to see is this quarterback. And I mean, nobody, even people that want to see Josh Allen fail. Nobody wants to see Josh Allen become this game manager. If he's going to fail, I want him to fail going down. I want him to fail, throwing the football down the field. Because if not, then you're never really going to know what his true potential or his ceiling is. And, by creating a guy that throws the ball 5 yards past the line of scrimmage. And he's not exactly 100% that right now, but the offense, as a whole, under Brian Dable's tutelage has, I thought, peaked last year, and they completely changed the schematics of the passing offense this year. And I think a lot of it had to do with the pieces that they got around Josh Allen. But I think that John Brown needs more yards after catch. He's catching the football and getting tackled. And to me, it's either for two reasons. It's because the quarterback isn't accurate or because the offensive coordinator is running routes that always come back to the quarterback. And the more film you watch, the more you realize John Brown is turning around and catching the football with his numbers to the defender. It's impossible for him to turn around in a lot of cases and get yards after catch. And the same with Cole Beasley. I want to see more routes that John Brown can catch a football and run upfield and be John Brown. We're going to see a John Brown potentially get over 1,000 yards this season. He's well on pace for that with almost no yards after catch. So imagine what this guy could do if he could take a ball and take it 25, 30, 50, 100 yards, So I just look at it from that this offense, they need better route combinations. They need better passing scheme that fits what Josh Allen does. And hell, screens, Carson Wentz threw for almost 200 yards against the Bills, and he threw one pass past the 5-yard marker. He's just throwing to his running backs. He's throwing to his wide receivers at the line of scrimmage. And, give Josh Allen those easy yards, and you'd be surprised on how the other yards sort of follow.